What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. I'm recording this on Monday morning. Sorry if I sound a little bit groggy. You know, events take a lot out of me, and we had a really good one this weekend. I'm gonna do like a longer vlog-ish kind of thinking piece video on the weekend tomorrow. But for today, we're getting into the tier list. LA Thieves came up on top of everyone this weekend, beating OPTIC Texas in the finals. Let's take a look at the tier list and see what's changed after 4 days of Call of Duty on land. So here was our tier list before the event, and I can already tell you there's going to be a bunch of changes. And I think I'll say, for the sake of this video, I'm not going to spend too much time on like the teams at the bottom. And to be honest with you, I really don't care. I think about the order of these squads. I guess maybe we'll just swap like LAG and just leave it like that. But I'm not really going to talk about them in this video. I think it's just a waste of space. Maybe we can speak on it later this week on sort of something to look forward to for these teams, but I just don't want to waste a lot of time in this video talking about it. All right, so off the mat, I'm going to make some tweaks and then we'll talk through it. So I'm going to move LA Thieves there. I'm going to move Seattle down here, FaZe there. And again, we'll speak through all of these changes. New York, Seattle. Do this, and I'll do this, and then let's talk through kind of my thought process, I think, on this, and maybe do a little bit of some changes. All right, first off, we have the LA Thieves, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they went ahead and won this tournament. They looked great in every game mode. Finally looks like they've solved a lot of their situational search issues. They didn't lose an Asilo search this entire stage, didn't lose an embassy search this entire stage. The hard point looks good. Control looks amazing. They're good at all the three maps. I think Thieves are just clear #1 team in the game right now. Slaying was on a level we haven't seen from them all season. Like, I'm pretty sure, unless Envoy got smoked bad enough on Sunday where his stats went below 1, I'm pretty sure they all finished at or above a 1.0 for the weekend. So that's really good. If you're a Thieves fan that's seen their Slaying be inconsistent at times, really the only thing for Thieves at this point is just keeping this up for another 6 to 7 weeks. It's April 24th, so how many weeks do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we got like 7.5 weeks until the season's over, and Champs is, you know, someone's lifting a trophy. So just got to keep up this form. People are going to go ahead and watch how Thieves play hardpoint and probably copy them a bit. Same with Control. They just got to keep up the form, keep pushing and moving for Major 5. Next up, we have OPTIC Texas, and another second place for OPTIC. And I thought this is a really good stage run for them, and they just kind of were the second best team at LAN. And you can ask FaZe how that felt all last season. And I see a lot of OPTIC fans, or I saw a lot of OPTIC fans yesterday, like freaking out in our chat during the watch party, on Reddit, on Twitter, of, oh, like, this is the ceiling of the team. This is going to keep getting seconds. You know, Kyler's going to fall off. Ant's going to fall off. They're going to start losing hard points. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, look. Here are my OPTIC Texas thoughts. One is, I think this team's really good. I think Dan's come in and provided sort of what they needed, which is a safety blanket at times, a really good communicator. He was a really good slayer throughout the weekend. And I think Ant, Shotzi, and Kyler Hook played well online. I think Kyler's stats definitely took a dip on LAN, but he was still an impactful player. And Bruce is doing his thing online, LAN, whatever, it don't matter. He's frying. I think for OPTIC, really the issue is that all season, and it goes to the middle of last year, their control hasn't been the level we saw prior to, or just slightly after, when they won Major 1 last year, where they were the best control team of the game. And it's just another grand final series where the control ended up being the difference. If you remember the Toronto series from Major 3, yes, OPTIC did win the hotel in that series, but Toronto did beat them on the game round 5 control and Asilo. And then again, in the Thieves series at this event, Thieves beat them on Expo and then beat them on Asilo round 5. So I just think coming up short in the controls in the finals is kind of an issue for OPTIC. I think they kind of find ways to lose rounds they should win. Like, they just don't stack. I don't know if it's a communication thing, or they're skipping steps, or just worried about trying to get another wave of kills. But I do think they need to clean up the control game, because I like where the rest of their stuff is at. I like where the hardpoint game is at. Obviously, they started losing more at the LAN event. You know, their winner streak in hardpoint did end at one point during the weekend to Thieves on Hydro during winners finals. But I think that they're still going to be probably one of the best hardpoint teams in the game. I think their search is pretty good. They really look good at 3 of the maps. Embassy doesn't seem still like a map they really want to play. In Asilo, they lost to Thieves, so that's kind of interesting. We'll see if OPTIC wants to sort of expand their map pool this stage. I like where OPTIC's at. I think they're going to continue to be at this level Well, I would say that throughout the weekend when I was kind of watching them play and practice and sort of be at the event, like they were always one of the first teams there. And I think if they continue that work ethic for the rest of the season, I think they have a good chance to win an event. Let's talk about Atlanta FaZe. I'm going to leave them in the Sunday regulars category here because they have now placed third, first, third, and third this season. So they made it to every Sunday, and this category is called Sunday regulars. So there you go. I do think that OPTIC and Thieves right now are ahead of them pretty clearly in the standings. And for FaZe, I mean, I don't know how they got third this event. I think this is probably the worst Call of Duty that they have played all season. I think they basically made it to third on the back of some individual plays at times from pretty much everybody on this roster. I think they had underwhelming slaying from their subs consistently throughout the weekend. I don't think MC had a good event. The only person who I think really kind of improved from online to LAN was Slasher. So I think if you're a FaZe fan, look, like if you're going to struggle one event, Major 4 is not a bad one to do it. You got 7 weeks to the end of the season. Major 5 and Champs coming up. Doing bad at the second last major is like about the best time that you could have issues. But there's some clear things that FaZe needs to work on. First off, they need to figure out how to be OPTIC. I don't know if there's a mental issue there or they're trying too hard or something, but they got to get over the hump at some point this season because OPTIC's going to be there or thereabouts at Sunday, pretty much every event, probably the rest of the year. I think that when it comes to hardpoint and control, when we watch this FaZe team and I listen to listen-ins, they probably have the worst communication out of the 3 teams in this category. And I don't think it's close. And I think they really, really need to work on it. I think they've been able to get away with it now for a while, but they just don't small talk enough. At least it seems like in matches compared to Thieves and OPTIC, who really yap well. So I think FaZe need to work on that. And I think they probably, they made some improvements in hardpoint. I thought their hardpoint was much better at this event than it was online. I think they ended up going like 4 and 5 in hardpoints on LAN. So slightly below 500, but I think a marked improvement from the last major. They were just really poor in control. I think if I do the count, they were like 1 and 4, 1 and 5 this weekend in controls. That's just unacceptable for a team that's been a good control team pretty much when the core of this roster has been around. Like they just got to get better respawn. If this team figures out how to play respawn, I think they're going to probably win another event because their S&D kind of pretty much carried them throughout this weekend. All of those game 5s, the individual search plays, like this team always finds a way to win in search. And that's why their win percentage, they win 3 out of 4 searches. And, they got to pick up the respawn if they want to place better than third the rest of the season. All right, next up we have the New York Subliners, and I think placing 4th at this event was a massive bit of momentum that this team needed after 2 really poor LAN events and some online stages where they were super day to day. I think a lot of people always talk about like the Major 1 curse and blah 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 blah. I think that's all just BS, things that people make up, they want to believe. I don't think it's the root of the issue. I think the more core issue is people win and they just don't keep up the work ethic or they change stuff up. And I think New York's talked about how just some of the discipline and the fire they've had at the beginning of the season has been tough to tap into after the win. But I think they may have found something going into this event now at this major. They beat Vegas in the first series. They lost to OPTIC. And then they beat Rocker and then lost to FaZe in a game 5. And I think honestly, New York probably could have won that series. They got like 8 first bloods on the last map and only won like 3 rounds. Like that's insane. So I think for New York, look, the search needs a lot of work. I think that's still a weak game mode for them. And I'm not been convinced since Major 1 that they're a good search team. And I think they really, 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 really got to step it up there. If we get to the end of the season, if they want to be Thieves, OPTIC, and FaZe, some of those series are going to go to game 5. You got to be able to clutch up. This team just throws away first bloods, advantages, decision-making in S&D all the time. But I will say for New York, I think their respawn's in a good spot. I like their hard point, especially their map pool. They play every map and they play it well. In control, they're pretty good. Although I will say they did not play Expo at all this stage. And I was a little worried about that because they were like the best Fortress control team. They're like 7-1, 8-1 or something like that. But not playing Expo is a bit of an issue. They need to add that map in the map pool. People are going to start trying to suss out which of the 2 controls are the weakest in, and they're just going to get targeted. And I just think that Expo really would give people something to think about with this team. So that's kind of one piece of focus along with the search. But like it from New York, kind of gets them out of sort of the danger zone in terms of getting a super bottom seed for champs. Still some more work to do for Major 5 to kind of get into maybe the top 4 seeds for the event for champs at the end of the season. But I like this as a stepping stone for New York. And people will hate on the teams they beat or play this tournament. You really can't choose who you play. You just play. But I liked what I saw from New York this weekend. All right, next up, I'm actually going to put Toronto above New York. I think this was a respectable event from New York, from Toronto, considering that they went 1-4 online, couldn't win a search. They beat Boston, Florida, and lost to FaZe in a game 5. Like, I think that grind at a Toronto winning 2 series on LAN and then losing to the team that got third is fine. I think for Toronto, it was a damage limitation stage. I mean, I think the key thing is get better at search. Like, there's not really much to complicate with Ultra. The respawn's still solid. I mean, Hixie's slang is kind of sometimes a little bit iffy. But again, they pulled up 2 LAN. And they won a search against Boston. They won a search against Florida. When they played FaZe, they played a better team. They lost both searches. And they lost another game 5. They've lost 1, 2, 3, 4 game 5s this stage. Like, I just think that something's happening when they get to that last S&D they need to work on. I think for Toronto, like, they're good enough to, I think, win another event this season. But the fall off after last event is kind of disappointing. They just need to keep it up, improve the search, and I think they're going to make a Sunday. And they are about to play in front of their home crowd, so I think they'll get a little bit of boost from that. Last time they played pretty good at the Toronto event. The next team we're going to talk about is Minnesota Rocker. I don't know where to put this team. They beat Seattle in this tournament to knock them out. And they lost to New York. And also Thieves. I'm going to put them here, even though they beat Seattle. I just have more confidence in Seattle, and we'll get to that in a minute. I mean, for Rocker, I think that they were the team that came out on top of the sort of battle of Vegas in terms of like trying to basically get the sort of front position going into Major 5. We were kind of iffy on Rocker going this event of like they won 2 games when they played at their home series, and then they lost 3 straight. And they do have another home series coming up in Major 5, which is, you're going to see some complaining on Twitter, I think, again, about that, but it is what it is. The first series against Thieves, they got kind of smoked, but Thieves won the event, so be it. They fried London. The Seattle series was a really typical reverse sweep out of Rocker. Like, I give them a lot of credit for the big regain in that. And then the New York series, they just kind of like ran out of gas. So I just don't know what to think of this Rocker team. Like, I just don't think that they're like the 8th best team in the league. I just don't know if they have the slaying talent and the teamwork to beat like New York and Toronto and even like Seattle or Boston. Maybe I'll put them like in front of Boston just to give them a little bit of credit. I know you all are going to complain that putting Seattle in front of them. I just trust Seattle more going forward than I do Rocker. I want to see a little bit more something, but as always with this tier, like things just kind of shuffle all the time. But Rocker is now kind of edged ahead of Vegas, I think, and have the driver's seat to sort of finish this out and qualify for COD champs. All right, let's talk Seattle Surge. So they lost to FaZe. First match of the major for them. They beat LAG in a game 5. Surprising that one went to game 5, and then they lost the game 5 to Rocker. It wasn't a great event for Seattle, who came in online like on a pretty good spree. They were on like a 3-game winning streak online, and then came this event. Just it seemed like the search was a little bit off. I'm trying to think, did they win an S&D this weekend? They lost the S&D to FaZe. They won 1 against LAG. They won 1 against Rocker. So they went 2-2 down the stretch, and then so they went 2-3 in S&D, which is not too bad. It's an improvement from past searches. They only won like 2 searches on LAN, I think, prior to this event. So I mean, I guess for Seattle, it's just they had some bad individual performances. I think Mac is sort of the player, I think, under the microscope at this point. I don't think we can really sugarcoat it. Like, if they want to win an event this season, they need Mac to play good in an event. It is what it is. So if they work on it, this team is going to make it to a Sunday, and no one's going to want to play them because of how good Sim and Pred are. And they continue to just be a solid respawn team. Again, like they have always shown that they have good ability in hardpoint, into control. I'm really still worried about the Mercado auto vetoes. I think they need to work on getting one of those in the pool, because their Fortress hardpoint wasn't great this stage, if I remember correctly. Hotel S&D wasn't great this stage. And the only the only control map I really trust them on consistently is the CeeLo. So I think there's some map pool things they got to work on. But top 8, not a great placing for Seattle, but I feel optimistic about this team. I'm going to leave them in this spot. Some of y'all will probably complain, but again, I feel more confident in them than Rocker going forward. All right, let's talk about Boston, Vegas, and then we'll wrap this up. Again, I really don't want to talk about the bottom 3 teams, man. It's just, you know, it is what it is. Boston had a horrible event. There's not really any way to sugarcoat it. They got double rounded by OPTIC in Toronto, and they only won one map in each series. I think there's a team now that we can accurately say is kind of stuck in neutral. There's a lot to like about this team. They definitely slay to the ability with everyone. I like Kremp. He's come in and I thought he had a decent event as a rookie. Very obviously, if you look at LA Thieves, OPTIC, FaZe, New York, even a team like Toronto, there's just so much more experience on those 5 teams compared to Boston. I feel like we're getting to the point where we just got to kind of accept that this is a young Boston team. They're just not going to be as consistent as some of these other squads. I think they have it in them to make one of these event runs. You never know. But I think with the lack of experience, I think they're just going to kind of settle to always be the sort of top 6, top 4 team. Right now, I have them sort of T8 based on just getting dead last of this tournament. But they can have the opportunity to beat anyone. They could also kind of lose at times to the top teams. I think it's just kind of keeping the path forward going with Boston. A lot of people talking about bringing Reese Vivid. I don't think that fixes anything. They need Ben Beans to play a little bit better in Respawn. Their map pool is not particularly wide when it comes to matches. It used to be pretty wide, but they did not win a single hotel hardpoint this split. They went 0-4, 0-3 on Fortress. Like, you can't go 0-7 on 2 maps. Actually, they were 0-1 on Hydra. So they went 0-8 on 3 maps. You just can't do that. They got to expand their map pool, start working on the little things as we go to the final 2 events. And they are kind of sitting right now on the champs qualification bubble. I think they'll still make it. Really, it sounds like 6, 7, 8. You're going to have to play Thieves, OPTIC, or FaZe. You don't really want that. So they got to figure out how to get some points down the stretch here. Let's finally talk about Vegas Legion. Probably with Boston, the most disappointing team we saw at this tournament. They were riding a nice 3-game winning streak going into this. I can't think of the last time, or I don't know if there's any time where Vegas had a 3-game win streak in the CDL. And then they ran to New York and got absolutely smoked, like bad. Like, the first map was close. They tilted and then got goose egged in the search and goose egged in the control. And then they played Florida and lost in a game 5 round 11. Like, and tossed away the map plate. I think we're up like 5-2 or 5-3. And they walk away with 0 points from the LAN. Rocker now hop ahead of them by a couple of points. Like, it's just worst case scenario for Vegas now. I just think that the teamwork completely fell apart when they got to LAN. And once again, this team just sucks at control. They got to get and figure out how to get better at this game mode. I know that Temp and Clay have all gone on streams and talked about how they were improved in practice. They got to translate that to actual matches. And unfortunately, like, of all the teams, I think out there, this team really is kind of run out of time because this is the schedule that they have coming for Major 5 right now. OPTIC, Subliners, FaZe, Rocker, Seattle. I think they can beat Rocker. I think they could theoretically beat New York. But OPTIC, FaZe, and Seattle are going to be really, really tough for them, man. So Vegas have a really tough stage. If they somehow get like 3 wins from the stage, I feel like it's a massive, massive W, and will keep them alive going to the final event. Like, anything can happen in Major 5, and they're not completely out of qualifying for champs, but I just don't see how they find 40 or maybe even 30 points online, and they're going to need to make up most of this in the way that New York did by making a strong run in Major 5. Probably needing to get like top 3 or top 4 to make it to champs. So yeah, that's the tier list. I'm going to leave it as is. Again, this Rocker Seattle thing kind of throws me off, but I just don't trust Rocker, bro. I want to, but I can't. So we can agree to disagree on that one, but I think the rest of this seems pretty fair. Thieves and OPTIC, I think, are ahead of FaZe, but I don't do the SAB stuff. And I think all 3 of these teams are going to make Sundays anyway, and that's what the category is called. So there you go. So let me know what you guys think of the video in the comments. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. We'll do some more recap content tomorrow. I'll kind of give like a longer thoughts on the event and sort of talk to kind of what's next with the flank and Major 5 and all that. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, guys, we will see you in the next video.